Welcome to Gunkle Tarot. My name is Brian Griffin. Today I'm going to do a virtual response, a video response to Marlene's hashtag Tarot Extremes. That is 7 pairings of tarot decks. The first pair is my Minimalist deck and the Maximalist deck. As you can see here, everything comes in a tuck box. I take out of tuck boxes because, tuck boxes. So this is the Sheridan Douglas Tarot. This is the modern reprint. I was not able to pick up the original deck when it was printed, and in all honesty, I wouldn't have presumably probably taken it. It's not really my style, and I bought it when it was reissued recently for the same reason that I have a version of the Rider-Waite. They're historic, and so again, not really my style. Blocks of color, etc. Also, I love the book that they printed at the same time, which I did get a copy of back then. So color blocks, minimalist style, not again something I use on a regular basis, but that is definitely my minimalist deck. For the maximum, I had was a close call between this and another deck, which will show up later in a different pairing. The Spirit Keeper's Tarot, the Revelation, the 3rd edition by Annabelle Wen. The deck, the artwork itself is incredibly Maximalist. The amount of detail and the thought behind the detail, the book of maps, the subtle little guidebook that goes with it of 1,000 pages, actually, probably more like 400 or 500, but it's a nice thick book. So there is so much in here. It is definitely a very, very Maximalist deck. It is on my only 10 decks as one of the decks I could, if I had to live with 10 decks, this would be an important one because it is a lifetime of study. So, Maximalist, Minimalist. So there's the first pairing. Second pairing is day versus night, and looking at that as the deck I would use to sort of like prepare for the day ahead, and then the deck to use sort of when you're getting ready to end the day. And I think the people who know these decks know exactly why. This Might Hurt is not a gentle deck. It is a wonderfully diverse deck in the representation of humanoids and interesting colors. It's a very provocative deck in a lot of ways. It certainly is not a gentle deck. And so this is the let's get the day going. Let's greet the day with a breath of fire, to do a Harold and Maude quote. So that's This Might Hurt Tarot. And for the prepping for the night, relaxing ending of the day sort of situation, the Everyday Enchantment Tarot by the late great Poppy Palin. It is a wonderful deck. I consider it fairly gentle, although it's not afraid to punch. But its artwork, Poppy style, is so incredible. It's interesting because it's a look at modern day England in a lot of ways. Subtle hints, the style of the Bobby's outfit, etc. But not in your face. It's not like a touristy deck. It doesn't have a lot of sort of big touristy attractions, but it's very comforting to me in a lot of ways. I would trim it down, but I so far don't mod decks. So the third category is shuffling, the best and the worst. The best, now, the reason this is the best is probably half of it the cardstock and half of it being 40 years old. This is one of two of my Morgan-Greer decks from 1980. These, although distributed by U.S. Games, at that time it was still being printed by Morgan Press, and the card is about 1/8 of an inch wider than what U.S. Games offers now. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of a bow. It's not all that white anymore. And again, how much of the shuffling is cardstock, how much of it is having been broken in, and how much of it is I'm such a terrible shuffler that that's about as much as I'm going to do. I riffle, but I do not bridge. Trying to bridge a deck for me is 52 card or 78 card pickup, and so I don't need to do it. There's plenty of ways to shuffle. So that is the best shuffle, one of the two Morgan-Greer decks from the time period. The worst shuffle for me, and I hate to have to say it about this deck because I love the deck itself. I love the idea behind it, the artwork. Stephen Bright's a genius. I have a couple of his books. I have another deck of his. But this particular card stock, not only is it glossy, super glossy, which is not fun, it is so, oops, my apologies, so incredibly stiff. It's a little thick. It sticks like crazy. It's not terrible, but like I said, in the riffling, but the stickiness, you're trying to do something subtle here and get a couple of cards. And some of that, it may just be my not using it enough to really break it in. But for me, this is, I mean, you could argue everyday enchantment because of the size of it, but as far as the quality of the cardstock impacting the shuffling, it's this. So that's that one. The Comforting deck and the Confronting deck. So the Confronting deck to me is the Urban Tarot. It's interesting because it's Thoth-based, sort of, but it doesn't have the vibes that I get from the original Thoth deck, which is as much ado about the creator as anything else. But yeah, this is not a subtle, kind, hope you have a good day deck. This is a you need to hear this deck, and it's exactly what I expected it to be. It's exactly what it should be. It is my confrontational deck. The Comforting deck, if I want something that's going to be not exactly cute, but certainly kind and gentle, is the Tarot of Pagan Cats. I started with the U.S. Games Cat's Eye Tarot, and it's okay. This one seems to work a little better, and I'm not sure if it's the artwork style, if it's a little more rough and tumble. The other one I mentioned is very domesticated in a lot of ways. This is not. But again, it's a nice thing. Cats comfort me. I mean, they ruin our lives, but they comfort us at the same time, because that's the magic of the cat. The next one is the Everyday Tarot and the Not So Everyday Tarot, and it happens in this case to both be decks from the same creator. The Everyday deck is the Deviant Moon Borderless, Patrick Valenza. I love it. Morgan-Greer is still officially my primary deck, but this is the next to that. The artwork, some people find it scary. I don't. I find it very life affirming and a little bit humorous, but not silly. It's that perfect blend of horror I don't like, too cute and too funny, none of which I really like, but it has just a little bit of each, and it's a delightful deck. And then the not so everyday, not really usable every day, at least not for me. The Trionfi della Luna, which is also by Patrick Valenza. And this is the paradoxical, and this is the super mega deck. So it has the 78 cards, then it has alternate cards, and it has the beast pack, and it has a mini oracle. So it's 115 cards, I think, in total. Again, it's Patrick's artwork, which I love, and it's paradoxical, which works for me more than the original. This is the original styling. This is paradoxical, where they do the color shift and the negative sort of thing, and then he colors it. It's available in various colors. There's pinks and purples, etc. I think the blue is the best one for me. And again, it's not an everyday thing. Privacy artwork style. It is a Pip deck, although he has since come out with a illustrated version. And I'm not really a Marseille person. I'm much more the Rider-Waite-Smith. So this is not the casual sort of, yeah, let's see what's happening in life sort of a deck. This very definitely is a specific subject, specific kind of reading deck. 6th category is the most overrated and most underrated. I have less than 3 dozen decks. I don't have a huge collection. I also have another 2 dozen non-tarot decks, but still not a big collection. And I don't really have anything I think is super overrated. This one I picked because considering Chris Ann's other decks, I think all of her others. I have the Sacred Creators Oracle, and I have the Magical Moments deck, and have the Light Seers Tarot. And I love all of the other ones. This one, it just doesn't do it for me. Not a super big fan of photo montage, etc. Style is not really mine. Is it the Kings, I think it is, that are horizontal? The Muse, okay, the Muse. So there's those 4 cards in the suits that are horizontal. It's not really super overrated, as in, people shouldn't be paying any money for it sort of thing. It's just, compared to all of the other decks that she offers, it just doesn't do it for me. And then the most underrated deck, I have many. I do like to support independent designers, but I'm not really big on $60, $70, $80 decks and waiting for a year and a half from Kickstarter. So I do use print on demand, like the Game Crafter here in the States. There's also Make Playing Cards in Hong Kong. And I would say pretty much every deck that's offered through the Game Crafter is underrated, simply because people don't discover it easily. This is the Sweeney Tarot, and it was created by Lee Bradford. That's the book, separate guidebook available for it. I love the artwork style. For people who like keywords, and they have keywords on all the minors. It has the symbolism, so that's the Queen of Cups. I like the artwork style. It's very up front, or very up close. The Lee does this thing where there are 7 characters that are named and have a history and appear in multiple cards. Most of them appear in 4 or 5, a few in 6 different cards. So that adds an extra depth if you want to, because you can say this person, this is so-and-so, and this is their background, this is their situation. A lot of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism isn't there, which can be a problem if you're looking for it. It can be freeing if you want to go with the flow. And some of them are subtle. So this is the Tower. That's a sword that they are sliding down, cutting themselves, but they won't let go. The sun, rebirth, the world. So it's one of, like I said, the Game Crafter decks, so it doesn't get the exposure. It's not fancy packaging. It's printed on demand, so it's a plain tuck box. The cardstock is delightful. It's 320 GSM black core. It's a wonderful cardstock, and it's available with so many decks that people just aren't seeing, because in many cases the artist puts it up and leaves it. One of the arguments for print on demand is for people who aren't prepared to commit a year full-time Kickstarter campaign and support and marketing. You put it up in the Game Crafter and then you leave it, so it doesn't get the exposure. So that is my most underrated, and as I say, representing pretty much most of the print on demand decks. The final category, number 7, is light and shadow, and the way I look at it, the shadow was pretty easy. This is the deck for shadow work for me, and that is the Somnia Tarot. It's a photography deck, and as a photographer, I appreciate the work that goes into this. This was created, sketched, and props built and shot and edited during the pandemic on the, I believe it was the North Shore of Long Island for this wonderful setting. I've blogged about it. I have some issues with the cardstock. It's minor situation. The exposure, because of the photorealism with the dark and light, means some of it's hard to see some of the detail. I get minor issues. It's an incredibly powerful deck. It's very thoughtful. I'm glad to see that Nicholas, the creator, is working on a book with more detail. He did publish a separate guidebook, which is not comprehensive, but does have a little bit more information, and reproductions of some of the props are available. It's a very interesting deck. For light, I don't think of this so much light work, spiritual, but just light as in fun, because I wanted to show off this deck. This is the Tarot of KiRC, the Quilted Rubber Chicken. It is available. It's another one of these, the Game Crafter print on demand by Bess Solinon, who's done a number of decks. I have a very, well, for some people it's a minor complaint. For me it's a bit more, because I'm a graphic artist and I know that Beth has done many decks, and so should have been able to do production files that allowed for bleed. You can see the pink on the edge. So again, I'm annoyed by that, but that's me. Other people may find it more or less of an issue. It's a fun deck. It's lighthearted because it's a quilted rubber chicken. So there's a certain amount of inherent funness to that. I'm a Leo, and there's my sun card. I mean, it's a fun deck. It's available from the Game Crafter tuck box, 78 cards, whatever this is, 16, 18 page, very basic little white book, but a fun deck. Shuffles well because, again, it's the Game Crafter stock, 320 GSM black core. This one has the fake linen finish. Not sure if you can see. It's a little glossy with the UV coat. And I'm killing the camera. Let's see how much I can edit out of that. So that is my light and shadow decks. So those are my 14 picks for the Tarot Extremes. Pairing off. I don't know, I can do a nice closing shot because, again, anything that comes in a tuck box I put into a bag and then into a box. So we're going to end up with, there you have it. That is my Tarot Extremes VR. I hope some of you found it interesting. Enjoy.